I'm Sarah Schlesinger, and I'm a physician scientist here at the Rockefeller. I'm here at the Rockefeller University. I grew up in Westchester, outside of New York City, and I grew up in a family of great expectations. My mother was a physical therapist, and my father was an attorney, but both of my father's parents, both my paternal grandmother and my paternal grandfather, were physicians. And though my father really wanted me to follow in his footsteps and be a lawyer and ultimately a judge, I didn't want to do that. I was inspired by both of my grandparents, but particularly my grandmother. My grandmother, Anna Merkin Schlesinger, graduated from Tufts Medical School in 1923. She was truly a remarkable woman. She came here as an infant from Russia. Her father was a Menshevik and had been deported to Siberia when she was an infant. And her mother followed her father, like in Fiddler on the Roof, with my grandmother in arms to Siberia, I believe expecting to live the rest of their lives in internal exile. But fortunately for everybody, when the little Tsar was born in 1903 or 1904, I'm not sure, there was a general political amnesty declared. And my great-grandfather was released, and my grandmother and my great-grandparents traveled back to Odessa, where they were from. My great-grandfather, cleverly, was not going to give them another chance at him, so though they spent the winter there, come spring, they emigrated to Philadelphia. First they were in Philadelphia, and then they moved to Boston. And my grandmother grew up in Boston as what must have been a very bright and precocious little girl. She graduated first in her class from the Boston Girls Latin School and wanted to be a physician. And at that time, medical school and college were one process. So you didn't first get your undergraduate degree and then go to medical school as we do now. So she applied to Jackson, which was the women's division of Tufts, and Harvard, Radcliffe, which was the women's division of Harvard. But Harvard Medical School didn't accept women until after World War II. So she attended Jackson College and then Tufts Medical School, from which she graduated in 1923. She loved to tell the story of how her friends who went to Radcliffe told how she was called absent in gym for an entire year because Radcliffe had no administrative mechanism of you not attending if they accepted you. So the other classes, I guess you had to sign up for, but you were automatically registered for gym. But she didn't attend. She graduated from medical school and then came to New York City to be an intern at Bellevue Hospital with Dr. Otis, who was an expert on tuberculosis. And following her internship, went up to Harlem Hospital, there were only 2 hospitals in the New York City public system, and the research, I guess, was based at Harlem Hospital, and she went up there, and she did research on the pneumonia serum. At that time, pneumonia was killing about 20% of people who died in New York in any given year, and there were no antibiotics. So the use of horse serum to treat pneumonia was pioneered here at the Rockefeller, but was of great general interest. And so she worked on that, which has always given me great pleasure because I've spent part of my life working on what would be a much later and more sophisticated version of serum therapy here. She met my grandfather, who was an intern, and though he was older than she, he was behind her academically, who had come from Memphis. His family were German Jews who had emigrated to Memphis after the Civil War, and his heart had been broken. His medical school roommate's younger brother and his sweetheart ran off together, leaving him heartbroken, and his parents decided that he should have a change of scenery. So through friends of the family, they arranged for him to come to New York to do his internship with the expectation he would return in a year. He met my grandmother, they married, and they made their life here in New York. And though he went back for many happy occasions, he never moved back to Memphis after that. My grandmother was remarkable in many ways, and she collected jewelry. And as her eldest granddaughter, I have been very fortunate to be the recipient of that. And my most treasured possession of my jewelry is this bracelet that was made for her on the occasion of her 50th birthday. It was commissioned by her 2 sons, my father Edward and his brother Robert. And they spent summers on Cape Cod in Falmouth. And there was a silversmith there by the name of Mr. Panis, who did a lot of work and made these bracelets like the one I just showed you. Typically they would have a starfish or a flower or something and a monogram. This is her monogram and not mine, but this has a microscope. And so when I got into medical school, she gave it to me. And a microscope not only is a symbol of research, but I'm a pathologist. So I've spent a good part of my life looking down a microscope that doesn't look too much like that, but a bit. So I used to wear it every day to work, but then it started to wear out. So now I only wear it on special occasions.